Okay, picture this. You have a protagonist who, by every single conventional metric, has absolutely no business being the hero of this story.
Right.
He's 70 years old. He has a grand total of 7 weeks of formal schooling to his name. He's broke.
And physically, he's suffering from a severely crooked spine that leaves him in, constant pain. Sounds like the opening of a tragedy, not a success story.
Exactly. And yet, here he is. He's standing in the middle of East Texas, Rusk County, to be precise, drilling into this red dirt in one of the most poverty-stricken regions in the country.
And this is at the onset of the Great Depression.
Right. And he is looking for something that every geologist, every major oil company, every single expert with a degree said simply wasn't there.
We should probably clarify, he isn't just drilling at random. He's chasing a ghost, really. Standard Oil's geologists had already surveyed that whole area.
They said it was dry.
Totally dry. They said the rock formations were all wrong. So this old man, he isn't just fighting the earth. He's fighting the entire established consensus of science.
But then he finds it.
He finds it.
He strikes what becomes known as the Black Giant. It turns out to be one of the most massive oil discoveries in history.
And usually, in the movies, this is where the screen fades to black.
Right, the confetti falls, the credits roll, everyone lives happily ever after.
It's the classic rags to riches ending. We love that story. But in reality, and this is what makes today's deep dive so fascinating, that moment, that's not the end.
No.
It's the beginning of the catastrophe.
That is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're digging into a source titled The Oil Flood, Wisdom Amidst the Chaos of Greed. It's a fascinating dialogue that dissects the history of the East Texas oil boom, and it focuses on this unlikely wildcatter, a man named Columbus Marion Dad Joyner.
But as you were reading it, I bet you realized pretty quickly this isn't just a history lesson.
Not at all. It's something else.
I'd call it a psychological autopsy. The source argues that what happened in East Texas isn't just a story about geology or economics. It's a cautionary tale.
About what happens when a miracle turns into a flood.
Exactly. We're going to look at 3 brutal laws of greed, the psychology of hope, and why discipline is the only thing that keeps us from drowning when we get exactly what we want.
I think that's the hook that really grabbed me. The idea that getting what you want can be so much more dangerous than not getting it.
Right.
So let's set the stage. We're talking East Texas, early 20th century, October 1930.
What's the vibe on the ground?
Desperation. Absolute crushing desperation.
Okay.
You have to remember, this is agrarian land. The soil was overworked from cotton farming, crops were failing from drought, and the Great Depression was just starting to strangle the whole country.
So cash was non-existent.
Yeah, but the source makes this really profound distinction. It says the people weren't just suffering from a lack of water or money, they were suffering from a lack of hope.
A spiritual drought, almost.
Precisely. And in walks Dad Joyner. Now, Joyner wasn't a geologist. He was a promoter. And this is crucial to understanding the miracle part of this.
Joyner wasn't just selling shares in an oil well to savvy investors. He was selling an escape to desperate farmers. The source calls it the power of the promise.
That's interesting phrasing. Because usually when we think of investment, we think of data. Spreadsheets.
Risk analysis, sure. But when you are starving, you don't look at a geological survey. You look at a man who tells you that your life can change overnight.
He had the power because he held the keys to a dream.
That's it. And there's this incredible description in the source of the scene at the drill site, the Daisy Bradford number 3. It says people stood there all night just waiting. Thousands of them.
And they weren't standing there like investors checking a stock ticker.
No. They were standing there like they were attending a revival, a religious event. They were waiting for destiny to just erupt from the ground and wash away their poverty.
And when you see it that way, as a religious experience instead of a business transaction, what happens next makes a twisted kind of sense.
You're talking at the moment the oil actually hit.
The moment they struck the Black Giant.
Yes. October 3rd, 1930. The ground starts shaking. There's this gurgling sound from the well. And then, boom.
The oil erupts.
Shooting over the top of the wooden derrick, spraying the trees, spraying the people.
Yeah.
Total chaos. Total ecstasy.
People are cheering, crying. It's the answer to their prayers. And Joyner, this 70-year-old man with a bad back, in this moment of just complete victory, he does something that I found, well, completely unhinged.
He pulls out a gun.
He pulls out a pistol and starts firing shots directly into the geyser of oil.
I mean, just pause and think about the physics of that for a second.
It's insane.
You have highly flammable crude oil spraying into the air, turning into this fine mist. The air is saturated with explosive gas, and you are firing live rounds into it.
One spark.
Just one spark, and that entire field, Joyner, the crowd of thousands, the dream it all would have incinerated instantly, would have been one of the worst disasters in American history.
It's terrifying. Why would he do that? He spent 3 years drilling this hole. Why risk blowing it all up in the first 10 seconds?
That is the psychology of the miracle. The source analyzes this so well. In that moment of ecstasy, reason just evaporates.
Instinct takes over.
Totally. He wasn't thinking about safety. He was celebrating being right. And this is a key theme we'll see again and again. In the heat of excitement, people are often willing to burn their entire future just to prove they were right in the present moment.
It's that blinding validation, I told you so, bang.
Exactly. And luckily for them, physics took a day off, the gas didn't ignite, and they didn't all explode. But in a way, the explosion did happen.
Just in slow motion.
And economically.
Right, because this is where we get into the economic paradox.
Yeah.
And this is the part that feels so counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
You'd assume discovering the largest oil field in the world, we're talking billions of barrels, would make everyone rich immediately. But the source calls this the flood.
Well, imagine you are dying of thirst in a desert, and suddenly someone hands you a fire hose turned on full blast.
It doesn't save you, it flattens you.
That's what happened to the economy.
Let's look at the numbers here because they are staggering. Before this strike, oil was trading at a decent price. Over $1 a barrel.
Which was good money in 1930.
Very good money. You could build a business on that.
A stable industry.
After Joyner's discovery, and after everyone rushed in to drill their own wells, the price started to slide. It went to 50 cents, then 15 cents, then 6 cents.
And then it hit rock bottom. 2 cents a barrel.
2 cents. You couldn't buy a cup of water for that.
The abundance destroyed the value. It's the most basic law of economic supply and demand, just playing out in the most violent way possible. The supply became effectively infinite, so the value approached zero.
And visually, the region just became a nightmare. The source describes wells popping up not by the month, but by the hour.
It wasn't an organized industry, it was a mob, a poor man's field. Because the oil was so shallow, you didn't need heavy machinery or millions of dollars.
You could drill a well with a basic wooden rig and a used car engine.
So everyone did. You had cheap, dangerous, jerry-rigged refineries appearing by the week. It was a gold rush without the gold. It was just sludge.
My favorite detail, well, favorite isn't the right word, maybe the most absurd detail, is about the gas stations.
Oh, the chickens.
The market was so flooded with cheap gas that stations were desperate just to get rid of it.
They were literally giving away free chickens and tomatoes if you filled up your tank.
Just think about that for a second. A chicken takes months to raise. It needs feed, care, shelter. A tomato takes a whole season to grow.
And crude oil takes millions of years of geological pressure to form. And suddenly, the chicken is worth more than the fuel that powers the industrial world.
But that just paints the picture of a completely broken system.
That's what happens when, as the source puts it, benefits run faster than order.
That's a great line. When benefits run faster than order.
The metaphor it uses is that society starts sliding like oil on water. It's hard to grasp, hard to keep, and very, very easy to catch fire. It's just slippery. Without structure, abundance is just a mess.
Okay, so we have this chaotic backdrop. The source material breaks this down further into what it calls the 3 laws of the flood.
Which are essentially the rules of how greed functions when the brakes are cut. And they're brutal because they're so recognizable.
We see them in the oil boom? Sure.
But if you look closely, you see them in the dot-com bubble, the crypto craze, the 2008 housing market. It's human nature on repeat.
Let's hit the first one. Law number 1, hope weakens reason.
The core concept here is thirst. When a person is truly thirsty, they don't check the source of the water. They don't send it to a lab to be tested for bacteria.
They just drink whatever is poured.
They just drink.
Yeah.
So the more desperate the hope for a quick fix, the less critical thinking we apply.
Precisely. Joyner didn't have to show geological data because the people didn't want data. They wanted the dream.
When hope is high, the barrier for evidence drops to zero. We believe because we need to believe.
That explains why scams are so successful in desperate times. It's not that people are stupid.
It's that they're vulnerable. Rationality is a luxury of the comfortable. When you're desperate, hope looks a lot like a life raft. And you don't check a life raft for holes before you jump in.
That leads us directly into law number 2, which is more systemic. Uncontrolled competition eats itself.
Okay, this one is critical.
I want to slow down here and really understand the mechanics, because the source mentions something called the rule of capture.
Yes, this explains why the flood happened. In American law at the time, oil was treated like wild game. If a deer crosses onto your land and you shoot it, it's your deer.
Doesn't matter where it was born.
Exactly.
So how does that apply to oil underground?
Oil exists in a reservoir, like a giant underground lake, but it's under pressure. If I drill a hole on my land, the pressure pushes the oil up my well. But that oil is migrating from all over the reservoir to get to my well. It flows.
So if my neighbor drills a well next door...
He is sucking from the same milkshake.
Got it.
If I drill on my land, any oil that comes up the pipe is legally mine, even if it drained from under your land.
So it's a race. If I don't suck the milkshake fast enough, you get it all.
Exactly. Now imagine a milkshake with 5,000 straws. This is the tragedy of the commons on steroids.
So once the oil was found, everyone rushed in.
Rationally, if everyone agreed to pump slowly, the geological pressure in the field would be maintained. The oil would flow for decades, the price would stay stable, everyone would make money for a long time.
That's the logical, cooperative approach.
But logic fails against the prisoner's dilemma. If I pump slowly and you pump fast, you get my oil and I get nothing.
So everyone has to pump as fast as physically possible.
Has to get their share before the neighbor does.
And the result is the supply glut we talked about. 2-cent oil.
But it's worse than that. By pumping so fast, they actually damaged the reservoir. They drew in salt water, they lost the natural pressure. They were permanently destroying the asset just to get it out of the ground 5 minutes faster. The industry effectively bankrupted itself through its own success.
And here is the irony that the source points out. It's fascinating. These rugged individualists, these Texas wildcatters who wanted nothing to do with the government.
They eventually end up begging for a regulating hand.
They needed a referee to save them from their own freedom.
They realized that total freedom in a finite space ends in mutual destruction.
Which brings us to law number 3. And this one feels the most personal to the character of Dad Joyner.
Yeah.
Law number 3. Easy profit makes ethics decorative.
Decorative. That's a stinging word, isn't it?
It is.
It implies that ethics becomes something you just hang on the wall to look nice, but you don't actually use it.
And the scandal with Joyner was that he sold interest in the well. But he was a little loose with the math.
A little loose is putting it very mildly. To fund the drilling, he sold certificates, basically shares in the future profits. The problem was, he sold more than 100% of the well.
He sold the same shares to multiple people.
He did. Some estimates say he sold huge percentages, way more than the well could ever produce.
So was he a master criminal, just sitting there twirling his mustache?
The source suggests something more nuanced. It suggests it wasn't necessarily malice or even stupidity, it was the fever. It was the intoxication of the boom. The source notes that the most dangerous lullaby in the world is the phrase, "It will probably be fine."
It will probably be fine. I think we've all said that before, making a bad decision.
It's the lie we tell ourselves when the money is flowing. Joyner probably thought, look, this field is so big, there's so much oil, everyone will get paid eventually, so it doesn't matter if the math is a little off right now.
He thought the size of this success would cover up the sins of the process.
Exactly. But the math is always the math. Reality always collects its debt. When the lawsuits started flying, the dream collapsed for him personally. He had to sell out just to cover his legal mess.
So we have these 3 laws driving the whole region off a cliff. Hope killing reason, competition killing value, and easy money killing ethics. How does it stop? How do you stop a flood like this?
You build a dam. Or in this case, you bring in the Iron Hand.
The intervention.
It wasn't a gentle suggestion. The chaos got so bad, we're talking hot oil smuggling, violence at the wells, total economic collapse, that the Texas Railroad Commission tried to set quotas.
But people ignored them.
Oh, totally. They ran secret pipes to bypass the meters. They moved oil at night.
So the government had to escalate.
It eventually required the National Guard.
Martial law.
Full martial law. Soldiers with bayonets standing over oil wells to stop people from pumping their own property. That is how far the chaos went.
It really highlights the cycle the source mentions. Explosion, chaos, discipline.
Boom, chaos, discipline. It seems to be a fundamental law of human society. We want the explosion, we crave the boom, but we can't handle it, so we create chaos. And then, desperate for order, we accept severe discipline.
There's a deep paradox there about freedom.
Yes. The source puts it this way. Absolute freedom in greed inevitably births a need for absolute control.
When the market becomes a riot, people call the government like they call firefighters.
You don't complain about the water damage from the fire hose when your house is burning down. You just want the fire out.
So Joyner starts as a hero, becomes this chaotic force, and eventually the system has to crush the very freedom that allowed him to succeed just to survive.
And Joyner himself, he didn't end up with the billions. The big companies, the ones with discipline, the ones with the capital to wait out the flood, they're the ones who eventually consolidated the field.
He was the spark, but not the engine.
He was. And he died with very little to his name compared to what he found.
This is where we need to pivot. We've looked at the history, the economics, the psychology of the crowd, but this deep dive is for you, the listener.
Right.
Most of us aren't drilling for oil in 1930s Texas, but we are all drilling for something.
A career breakthrough, a crypto investment, a startup idea, we are all looking for our black giant.
And we are all susceptible to the oil flood. So how do we master the current? The source offers 3 personal disciplines. Let's walk through them.
Okay, the first one is master the fever.
What does that look like in practice? It's easy to say don't get excited, but when you see a massive opportunity, your brain just lights up.
It means when an opportunity looks like a miracle, you have to force a pause. You have to ask yourself a very difficult question. Am I looking at the truth or am I looking at a dream?
Am I looking at a dream? That's hard because we want the dream. We want the escape Joyner was selling.
We do. But the source says a defined person, a grounded person, isn't afraid of opportunity. They're afraid of being blinded by opportunity. You have to separate the facts of the deal from the emotion of the escape.
So if you feel that rush, that religious fervor we talked about earlier.
That's a warning sign, not a green light.
Okay. Discipline number 2. Master the tempo.
This connects back to the idea of the flood and the rule of capture. Fast gain usually implies fast loss.
Easy come, easy go.
But it's deeper than that. If you are promised a result that skips the process, the wealth without the work, or the status without the substance, the price is hidden somewhere. Often in the fine print, but sometimes it's hidden in your character. If you rise too fast, you haven't built the structure to support that height.
Just like the East Texas economy didn't have the structure. No refineries, no pipelines, no regulation.
Exactly. If you succeed faster than you mature, you will collapse.
Wow. If you succeed faster than you mature, you will collapse. That's the Joyner story in a nutshell.
It is. He wasn't ready for what he found.
And the third discipline, master the ethics.
This is the safeguard against that "it will probably be fine" mentality. The source emphasizes that you cannot let a winning result turn you into a wrong person.
Don't let the outcome justify the means.
Exactly. You have to remain true to reality, true to cause and effect, and true to your conscience. If you have to twist reality to make the deal work, like selling 110% of a well, you have already lost, even if you make money in the short term.
Because eventually, the martial law comes. The truth arrives.
It always does.
It seems like the theme of all this advice is counterintuitive. In a race, we're told to run fast. But here, the advice is...
Slow down.
Slow down.
Not because you're afraid, but because you need to see clearly. The source has this beautiful phrase: seeing clearly is the only true freedom.
When you're rushing, when you're in the fever, you're a slave to the momentum, a slave to the crowd.
And stopping, thinking, questioning, that is the act of a free person.
It's about standing still while everyone else is running toward the gusher.
And checking if that gusher is going to cover you in riches or drown you in sludge.
So to wrap this up, looking back at the East Texas oil boom, who won?
Well, according to the source, oil won. The oil came out of the ground. It didn't care who sold it.
Greed won.
Greed certainly won. It drove the whole age, and it got the oil out faster than any planned economy ever could have.
And discipline won.
The regulators, the big companies, the government, they won in the end. They established the order.
And the humans, the Joyners, the farmers waiting for a miracle.
The humans were just the ones paying the tuition. They learned the lesson the hard way.
That is a humbling way to look at history. We are the students paying tuition to the laws of nature.
Always.
The source ends with a warning that I think is the perfect note to leave on. It says, don't rush to kneel before luck.
That's a powerful image. We tend to worship luck. When something good happens, we want to bow down to it. But the advice is, stand up, stay standing.
When a miracle arrives, don't celebrate immediately. Check if you're being swept into a flood.
Because luck brings temptation.
The most dangerous temptation of all.
The belief that we are special and that the rules no longer apply to us, that is the moment the gun comes out.
So, to you listening today, you might be on the verge of your own breakthrough. You might be drilling your own well. We hope you hit it. We hope you find your black giant.
We do, but when you do, don't shoot a gun at it. Don't sell the same share twice, and don't lose your head.
Share this wisdom. Because as the source reminds us, society doesn't lack smart people.
Yeah.
We have plenty of smart people.
We lack awake people.
Stay awake. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.